And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about navigation invokers. Now, what we did in the last video tutorial was we set up 3 different zones and we set up 3 different missiles and we made them work within that zone. But that's good if you have a small environment, something that you can control. Now, the problem is that if you're going to be creating a large area game, like something like this, where you have a large exterior outside, the problem with setting this up is that as soon as you pull and stretch this out, it's going to be checking that area constantly. So anything that's in green is being checked all the time. And every single piece of that data needs, and so basically what's going to happen is it's going to slow down your computer as you try to make and increase the area for the navigation field. But you may want to randomly put characters in that field, and if that's the case, it's basically going to be too much for for most of the computers to do that. So what we're actually going to do is use a system that's called Navigation Invokers. We'll create a new missile, a new AI. We'll set up all the things that we need to, and right now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to delete these, each one of these. So actually I'm going to leave one of them up, and I'm going to extend this over the area that I need it to be for this area. So I'm going to do all this land all the way from here to the cave. So let's go ahead and pull that open. So to use a navigation invoker, you are going to need to have a large field area set up already. And let's see if we can make this just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, so that's pretty much most of the area, and you can see that the computer's already starting to struggle trying to keep up with that generation. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go to Settings, and we are going to go to Project Settings, and inside of Project Settings, what we're looking for is a tab called Engine, which is the engine that we're working with, which is Unreal. And there we're going to see 2 options. One is Navigation Mesh, and the other one is Navigation System. So let's click on Navigation System, and in here we'll see that we have a couple of options: Navigation, Navigation System, and right here underneath Navigation Enforcing, what we want to do is select the first option and make it true. So generate navigation only around navigation invokers. So basically what this is going to do, and we don't have to save, all we have to do is close this box out, and we will see that the green has gone away. Now it's not that the green isn't there, it's just that there's no, the field has to obviously be there, so we do need to have a very large nav mesh made all the way there, but right now each one of these would not be working because they don't have any green that's immediately around them. So if I push play right now and I go into these areas where they were previously working, they are now stationary because even though they're in a navigational field, they don't have an invoker around them, which is telling them to move. Now, to make these guys work, what we'll need to do is go ahead and go into the H missile 1. We'll double click in there, and that'll open up the blueprint editor for that. And what we'll need to do is make sure that this has a navigation invoker. So we'll scroll all the way down until we get to, I believe it's movement. There it is, navigation. And one of the options that we have there is navigation invoker. So we'll go ahead and select that. And that now has given us the ability to make a couple of changes and to actually set up a field that's around us. Now by default, the field that's there is quite large. And if we hit compile and save and close this, we'll actually see that that one square, that's 3,000 units going away from the 1 unit right there. So that's not this. So that means if I'm standing here and I push play and I walk into this area, this thing will immediately attack me. Now that's sort of overkill. I don't need this much area going around the outside of it. So I'm going to double click on this again, and let's make this, let's say 300 by 300. So 300 by 300. Let's hit compile and save. And we'll see now that we have a much cleaner square. It maybe could be a little tidier, but it is a radius that goes around the outside of it. So it is quite difficult to put something less than a certain amount. So maybe we can make this 200 by 200. And let's hit compile and save. And that might make it a little bit closer. We may have to save all. That might rebuild it. If not, we might need to rebuild path or replace it with the new one, because the old one would have had the old information. And I actually believe it's the path that needs to be rebuilt. Okay, so let's go file and build all. Might take a second, but okay. So now that we've rebuilt the path, let's go ahead and see what happens. So I should be able to walk into this area right here, but remember that this AI is still listening to the information that we have here, so we still need to be in range for it to come and attack us. So, oops. So even though this is extending all the way out here, this guy won't be able to hit us until we actually get and start walking on the white platform area. So just to prove that, I'll walk over here, and we can see now that even though the invoker is larger than the area that I want it to be in, as soon as I get into what would be, oops, I guess we're also pulling in an S mine. Okay, and there we go. All right, so fantastic. So so we do have that working. So if we wanted to, we could now do that to the other ones. So I would go to HMissile2, add an invoker to this one. Now that we know that what an invoker is, we can just type in the word invoker or part of it. We would get that. Obviously, we don't need this to be that 5,000 by 5,000. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save. We'll close those boxes down. We can see now that this one now has its own box, and let's do the same thing to the third one. So we'll go in here, double click, open it, add a navigation invoker. Okay, same thing, change its size. Okay. So there we go. So now, because each one of these is listening to its own custom AI, at this point, if I walk into this one, even though all of them are seeing that navigation invoke in the area, only the one that is here for 1 will see me and attack me. So same thing for 2. None of the others are attacking me. As soon as 2 respawns, okay, we'll see that the other 2 still have not attacked. And same thing with number 3. Okay, so right there, what we've done is, again, we've set up an incredibly large navigation area, and we have gone to our existing enemy H missiles, homing missiles, and all we have done is added the navigation invoker into each one of them, set up a parameter around them or a radius of about 200 so that they would more or less stay in the same area, and they would not be generating any any area larger than what we have there. And because they are still listening to their AI, they are still working exactly the same way they were before, but this time, instead of having 3 separate nav mesh areas, we now have one larger one. Now, at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video here. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll set up an area here towards the back, which will be like our free range area. And what we'll do is we'll set up a new H missile and a new H missile HI or AI that will randomly generate and spawn our missile, plus also follow our character. So the nav mesh will actually start to be rebuilt. It will be quote unquote dynamic, where these are right now static. They do not move. So if I walked in and then walked out and the H missile got to the edge, it would stop. It would not continue to keep following me, because these are static. So hope you've enjoyed the video, and have a nice day.